2 months ago, my life changed in a matter of seconds. I was on this small boat when a violent storm washed over us. The waves were huge, like towering giants trying to crush us. Suddenly, a massive wave hit the boat, capsizing it. I found myself tossed into the raging sea. I tried to grab onto the boat, but it was impossible. The storm had turned the ocean into a chaotic whirlpool. I don't remember much after that. The next thing I knew, I was lying on a beach, completely alone. When I regained my senses, I realized I was on an island. I sat up, but my head spun, probably from hitting the rocks. As I looked around, I saw palm trees swaying gently in the breeze. I got up feeling weak and shaky, but there was no one there. It was like being on a deserted set of a movie, and then it hit me. I was all alone. My heart sank, but I couldn't afford to panic. I was lost, injured, and alone, so I did what I had to do. I started walking along the shore, hoping to find fresh water. After a while, I spotted something in the distance. A stream tumbled down a rocky slope and disappeared into the jungle. Hope surged through me. I stumbled towards it, eager to quench my thirst. When I reached the stream, I cupped some water in my hands and drank deeply. It was cool and refreshing. Feeling a bit better, I decided to explore the area. As I ventured deeper into the forest, I noticed a cave hidden behind a curtain of vines. Inside, to my astonishment, there was a crystal-clear pool of water. I immediately filled up some empty coconut shells I found nearby and took them back to my cave. I made it my daily habit to visit the pool, bringing back fresh water whenever I needed it. As days turned into weeks, I started building a shelter near the cave. Using long sticks, I created a roof, piling up leaves and branches to form walls. It wasn't much, but it gave me a sense of security and also protected me from rain. I used sharp rocks to cut wood, slowly crafting sturdy tools that helped me gather materials for my shelter. With these tools, I could chop down small trees and bushes, make spears for fishing, and even fashion a crude axe. This axe became my most valuable possession. Not only did it help me build my shelter and collect food, but it also symbolized my resilience and adaptability. Each swing of the axe echoed my determination to survive and thrive in this unfamiliar environment. Over time, my shelter became a comfortable place, my home away from home. I covered the floor with soft leaves, making a bed. I hung dried meat and fish from the ceiling, creating a pantry. I felt a sense of pride looking at my accomplishments, a testament to human resilience. But life on the island wasn't without its challenges. There were times when I injured myself, when the wounds got infected, and when the pain kept me awake at night. Tropical storms would batter the island, threatening to destroy my shelter. I fought off wild boars that wanted to destroy my food supplies and faced loneliness that sometimes felt unbearable. But my biggest challenge was staying hopeful. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still there was no sign of rescue. I started losing hope that anyone would ever find me. During those moments, I questioned why I was chosen for this. Why did I have to endure this ordeal alone? Sometimes I even wished I wouldn't be saved, so I could just end my suffering. But then I would look at my surroundings, the beauty of the island, the friendliness of its inhabitants, and I would remember why I had to keep going. Despite the hardships, this island had become my home. I've learned to fish by crafting spears and hooks from sharpened sticks and stones. I used the knowledge passed down by generations of fishermen. I would cast my spear into the sea, feeling a mix of anticipation and satisfaction with each throw. When I pulled it out, sometimes it had a fish, a small victory in my battle against hunger. I also used the hook to catch fish. I baited it with pieces of meat and waited patiently for a bite. The struggle of the fish on the line gave me a sense of purpose. Fishing wasn't just about food. It was a connection to the natural world. It was a test of skill and patience. And each successful catch brought me closer to understanding and respecting the power of the sea. The island was my home, but it wasn't my world. I often wondered what was beyond the vast expanse of the ocean. Were there other islands? Was I the only human being around? These questions kept me going, fueling my desire to escape the confines of my little paradise. Every morning when I woke up, I walked to the easternmost point of the island. I stood there watching the sunrise, hoping to catch a glimpse of a ship or an airplane. Every evening I performed the same ritual, this time watching the sunset, bidding farewell to the day with a silent prayer for rescue. Then came the day that changed everything. As I scanned the horizon, I saw a small boat approaching, and my heart raced as I waved frantically. The boat veered off course and headed straight for me. I ran along the shore, my feet barely touching the ground. As the boat drew closer, I saw faces etched with concern and relief. I heard shouts and whistles echoing across the waves. Oh. In that moment, my years of solitude vanished. All I could think about was rescue. I jumped into the water, eager to reach the boat. Strong arms reached out, pulling me aboard. I collapsed onto the deck, tears streaming down my face. Words of comfort and congratulations filled the air. I didn't care about anything else. I was just happy to be rescued. I was taken off the island and brought to a hospital where doctors checked my body, amazed by my survival. I told them about my ordeal, about how I managed to stay alive for an entire year on a deserted island. They listened, their eyes filled with admiration. When I mentioned the island, a strange look crossed their faces. They whispered among themselves, their voices low and urgent. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their tone was concerning. Later, when I was well enough to leave the hospital, I was met by officials who explained that they had a few questions for me about my experience. I agreed, eager to share my story. But as I spoke, I noticed a shift in their demeanor. Their polite smiles became tight, and their eyes, which were once filled with sympathy, now held a hint of suspicion. After my rescue, I was interviewed by numerous media outlets. The story of the young man who survived alone on a remote island for a whole year captivated the public's imagination. I became a local hero. People praised my endurance, my resourcefulness. They shook my hand, their eyes full of admiration. They congratulated me, their voices filled with wonder. But beneath the surface, I sensed something else, a flicker of doubt, a hint of disbelief. One evening, as I sat alone in my room, the weight of their reactions crashed down on me. Had I really been on that island for a year? Doubts crept into my mind. I thought back over my memories. The storms, the injuries, the solitude, they all seemed real. But what if the island itself was a figment of my imagination? What if it was all a dream? Terrified, I began searching for answers. I went back to the hospital, hoping to find someone who remembered my story. The staff acted confused. They said they had no record of my stay and knew nothing about a young man who survived on a desert island. That's when I realized that my journey was far from over. The real challenge, it seemed, was not surviving on the island, but proving that I had been there at all. Now I find myself at a crossroads, torn between the reality of my experience and the skepticism of the world. The question that echoes in my mind is whether my story will ever be believed. Am I trapped in a world that refuses to acknowledge my truth? Or will someone come to believe me? Only time will tell.